Ethan first realized the night was repeating when the waitress spilled coffee on his hand for the third time. The first time it happened, he barely reacted. He had stopped at the roadside diner just after midnight, exhausted from driving 6 straight hours through rain-soaked back roads in northern Oregon. The diner was nearly empty except for an old couple near the window and a teenager asleep in one of the booths. The waitress had apologized quickly after the coffee slipped from the tray and splashed across Ethan's wrist. The second time, it unsettled him. Same apology. Same exact words. You looked half asleep there for a second. Even the nervous laugh afterward was identical. By the third time, something inside him turned cold. Because this time, Ethan moved his hand before the cup fell, and it still landed exactly where it had before. The waitress froze, staring at the spilled coffee like she didn't understand how it happened. Then she slowly looked up at him, not confused, concerned. "You okay?" she asked quietly. Ethan pushed himself out of the booth. "What time is it?" The waitress frowned slightly and glanced toward the clock above the counter. 1:17 a.m. Again. Always 1:17. Ethan backed away slowly. 10 minutes earlier, he had checked that same clock after walking into the diner. 1:17 a.m. No matter how much time passed, it always returned there. At first, he tried to explain it logically. Exhaustion, micro-sleep episodes, stress. But deep down, he already knew this wasn't normal. The proof came 30 minutes later when he walked outside and saw the same truck nearly hit the same stray dog in the parking lot for the 4th time. The dog survived every time. The truck driver cursed every time. And thunder rolled across the sky exactly 7 seconds later. The world wasn't replaying naturally. It was replaying perfectly. Almost perfectly. Because each loop changed slightly. The old couple in the diner sometimes switched seats. The teenager occasionally woke up. Once, the jukebox played a different song. Another time, the waitress stared at Ethan too long before speaking, as if she recognized him from somewhere she couldn't place. The changes were small, but they were growing. By the 12th loop, Ethan stopped trying to leave town. Every road curved back toward the diner eventually. Gas stations repeated, intersections repeated, even people repeated. He once drove 2 hours east, only to end up back at the same traffic light outside town, with the clock on his dashboard flashing 1:17 a.m. again. Sleep became impossible. Hunger disappeared. Time no longer felt real. Only the loops did. Then came the 13th reset. That was the first time someone remembered him. Ethan had been sitting silently in the diner booth when the teenager across the room suddenly looked up from his phone and said, "You're still here." The words hit Ethan harder than they should have. "What?" The teenager's expression tightened like he instantly regretted speaking. "Nothing." "No," Ethan said, standing now. "What did you mean by that?" The teenager looked genuinely nervous. "You're not supposed to notice this many resets." The entire diner went silent. Not naturally silent. Immediate silent. Like someone had muted the world. The waitress stopped moving. The old couple froze mid-conversation. Even the rain outside seemed to stop against the windows. Then, all at once, every person inside the diner slowly turned to look at Ethan. His chest tightened. Not anger, not fear. Recognition. Like they had finally identified a problem. The teenager stood carefully from the booth. "You need to stop remembering." Ethan took a step backward. What the hell is happening? The boy looked exhausted suddenly, older than he had a second ago. The world is correcting itself. Correcting what? The teenager hesitated, then said quietly, "You." The lights flickered, and for a split second, Ethan saw something impossible. Everyone inside the diners had different faces beneath their own. Not masks. Layers. Like reality itself wasn't loading correctly around them. Then the light stabilized again. Normal. Almost. Ethan ran, straight out into the storm. Rain hammered the empty streets while neon signs buzzed overhead. The entire town felt wrong now, subtly distorted around the edges. Buildings seemed slightly misplaced. Streets longer than before. Shadows moving half a second too late. The town wasn't stable anymore. Neither was he. As Ethan sprinted down the road, memories began surfacing that didn't belong to him. Different versions of the same night. Different conversations. Different endings. In one memory, he died in a car crash before reaching town. In another, he never stopped at the diner. In another, the town was empty. Completely empty, except for him. Ethan staggered to a stop beneath a flickering street lamp as the realization slowly formed in his mind. These weren't loops, they were failed versions, failed realities, and every reset was trying to remove the thing causing the instability. Him. A police siren echoed somewhere behind him. Ethan turned. At the far end of the street stood 3 police officers, completely motionless, watching him. Then, in perfect synchronization, they started walking forward. Not running. Walking. Like they knew escape was impossible. Ethan backed away slowly, panic rising in his chest. "Why is this happening?" he shouted. One of the officers finally answered. But the voice that came out wasn't human. It sounded layered, distorted, like multiple voices speaking together. "Because you survived." Ethan froze, and suddenly, he remembered. The bridge, rain, his car skidding sideways through the guardrail, the impact, the freezing river below. He had died that night. Or at least, he was supposed to. The officer took another slow step forward. The system could not continue while you remained. What system? But deep down, Ethan already understood. Reality wasn't breaking. Reality was repairing itself. And every loop was another attempt to place him back where he belonged. Dead. The storm around him intensified violently now, wind tearing through the empty streets while lights burst one after another across the town. The world was collapsing around the mistake it had failed to erase. Ethan turned and ran one final time. But the streets were changing too fast now. Buildings folding into unfamiliar shapes. Roads ending abruptly. Entire blocks flickering in and out of existence. The town was shutting down. Ahead of him, the diner appeared again. Exactly where it had been the first time. Warm lights glowing through the windows. Waiting. Ethan slowed, then stopped. Inside, every person sat exactly where they had during the first loop. The waitress, the old couple, the teenager. All frozen, waiting for him to enter. On the counter beside the register sat a newspaper. Tonight's date. And beneath it, one headline. Local man dies after car accident on bridge. A photograph underneath showed Ethan smiling at the camera. The waitress finally looked up toward the window. This time she smiled sadly. Not like someone greeting a customer, like someone saying goodbye. Then the clock above the counter changed. 1:17 a.m., and the world reset one final time.